Hello all, welcome to yet another live session of Narayana IAS Academy. So as all of you know, this is Sureka Bhaskar presenting to you the daily news analysis, and for today's discussion we've picked up a number of articles from both the Hindu as well as the Indian Express which become extremely important and relevant for the UPSC CSE examination. Now, before moving into that, let us actually see the motivation that I have actually brought for you guys today. So here, the motivation behind me actually says that there is no shortcut to success and only a road which is actually paved with consistency, with hard work as well as courage that actually helps you to keep going when the journey actually gets difficult or tough. Okay, so with this, let us actually move forward and see what are the courses that Narayana IAS Academy has actually brought forth in order to ease your preparation and to enable you to crack this particular examination. So here we have actually come up with 1 year prelims cum mains integrated course for the 2026 examination, and in a similar fashion we have a 2-year prelim cum mains integrated course for the 2027 examination, and also we are providing you with the total instruction hours of around 1000 plus hours with a curated syllabus as well as content that has been done with proper research and PYQ mapping. And if you see, we actually provide you with 800 plus hours of general studies as well as CSAT online classes, as well as we also provide you capsule of around 200 hours of current affairs. Okay, and moving forward, we also have a strategic as well as a properly curated micro schedule that will actually enable you to plan your options and the way you have to study on a daily basis so that you don't get lost in the vast syllabus of the UPSC CSE examination. Moving forward, we actually have our expert faculty who have appeared in this exam multiple times up until the interview stage, who will help you to qualify this examination with ease. Also, we have regular testing through our test series and a feedback mechanism through which we provide you regular feedbacks on your performance. So moving forward, what are all the study materials that the R&D team actually gives you is that we have the Narayana IAS study kit where we provide you with 12 Navigator NCERT books as well as 21 GS Navigator books, and also we have categorized the PYQs of both the prelims as well as the main examination thematically. Okay. Also, we will provide you the digital resources where we will give you 250 plus model answers which are handwritten by the experts of our R&D team. And finally, we have the monthly Navigator magazine where we have actually completed 12 editions of the same, and we will be soon coming up with the yearly compilations for the quick revision for your prelims examination. So moving forward, let us actually see the number of topics that we've actually picked up today for the discussion. Okay. So the first topic that has been picked up for today's discussion is 45,000 crore Ken-Betwa Link Project launched. Okay, so in this particular article, we will be discussing about the entire concept of interlinking of rivers in India. So here we'll be discussing about interlinking of rivers in India, why this plan actually originally originated in India, whether it was before the independence and how was the status of the same after the independence, and has any two rivers been interlinked so far in India, or is Ken-Betwa Link Project is the first of a kind. All that we'll be looking at, and also we'll be looking at the benefits or the significance of the interlinking of rivers as well as the challenges. Okay, and also we'll be looking into what have been the Supreme Court award or the observations with respect to that of the same. Now moving forward, the second article has been picked up from page number 7 of the Hindu, that is the lapses in the disaster management bill. So you know that recently the disaster management amendment bill of 2024 had actually come, making some amendments in the disaster management act of 2005. Okay, so let us actually see what are the amendments that the 2024 bill actually had with respect to the DM Act of 2005. However, we'll also see certain lapses in this particular bill, and what are the lapses and what is the way forward is what we'll be discussing in the second article. So moving forward, the third article has been picked up from page number 8 of the Hindu. Center yet to formally scrap the FMR. This is nothing but It is the free movement regime that India actually has. That is, it is a bilateral arrangement between India as well as Myanmar. Here, what is important from prelims point of view is, apart from understanding the concept of FMR, we need to know the bordering states of India with that of the Myanmar border, and what is the border we actually share with Myanmar, and whether, with respect to that of visa, or whether they actually have to have a visa to actually stay in the neighboring country, what is the kind of relations that India shares with that of its neighborhood, is what we'll be understanding in this particular article. Now, moving forward, the fourth article is why Australia's online safety amendment about. So, what is Australia's online safety amendment about? So, here Australia has actually recently come up with an amendment bill that actually restricts the use of online space by children up to a certain age limit. So here we'll be discussing about that bill, and this also has been covered in detail in the Navigator magazine under your case study section of society and social justice. And so here we'll be actually discussing the, in brief. And final article for the day is how the 2004 Indian earthquake, that is Indian Ocean earthquake, transformed tsunami signs. So this particular article is in news because December 26th actually marks 20 years, or that is 20th anniversary of the tsunami that actually took place in 2004. So here we'll be discussing about the concept of tsunami and how catastrophic was this 2004 tsunami, what was the epicenter, and what were the impacts that it actually caused on how many countries across the globe. All this we'll be discussing here. Okay, so now let us quickly get into our discussion. So the first topic for the day is 45,000 crore Ken-Betwa Link Project has actually been launched. And here, as I already told you, we'll be looking into the broader perspective of interlinking of rivers in India. So interlinking of rivers will be the major topic, okay, and we'll also look into what are the significance or the benefits of it. Also, we'll be looking into the concerns and the challenges, okay, and also we'll be looking into the origin of this particular concept in India. And first of all, we learn about what is interlinking of rivers. Okay, so let us actually understand all these one by one. So here again, interlinking of rivers, water resources of India shall actually be understood, and then this is important from your mains perspective, GS paper 1, distribution of key natural resources across the Indian subcontinent, GS paper 3, disaster management. Okay, sorry, JS paper 3, it is irrigation. And also it is actually with respect to that of disaster management also, when these projects are there, there are lot of relocation, dam construction, that collapse and rehabilitation of the people is actually there. So here disaster management is also a part of it. Okay, so now let us quickly move forward and understand the previous year question. In 2020, there has been a direct question on the interlinking of rivers. Okay, so it actually says the interlinking of rivers can provide viable solutions to multidimensional or interrelated problems of droughts as well as floods, okay, and interrupted navigation. So critically examine. So here basically we are going to discuss this particular 250 words answer over here. Okay, so here we'll be giving you examples also, and we'll be taking you through the details of this interlinking of rivers in India concept. So moving forward, why this particular article is in the news. So recently, the Prime Minister actually laid the foundation stone of Ken-Betwa River Linking Project. Okay, so this project is actually supposed to be India's first interlinking of rivers project under the National Perspective Plan. So here we'll be understanding what is this particular National Perspective Plan as well. Okay, and here you need to understand about the Ken as well as the Betwa rivers, because river systems become very important for our examination. These are tributaries, or whether they are distributaries of which river. This particular river actually flows through which of the following regions or the states, and whether it actually passes through any of the tiger reserves, or the wildlife sanctuaries or biosphere reserves, etc. How many states it actually crosses through. All this is very very, very important. Whether it is a right side tributary or it's a left bank tributary, these are important. Okay. So both Ken and Betwa river actually have their origin in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Ken actually originates in the Kaimur range, okay, of Madhya Pradesh, and it actually flows into Uttar Pradesh and finally joins the Yamuna river. So both Ken and Betwa are the tributaries of river Yamuna. If you see this Betwa river, this also actually starts in the Vindhya range, originates in the Vindhyan range in Madhya Pradesh and then flows into Uttar Pradesh before it actually joins the Yamuna river. So that is where, you know, this is actually Ken river. If this is Madhya Pradesh, this is the Ken river and this is the Betwa river. Both of them actually join the Yamuna river in Uttar Pradesh, and now they are actually trying to link Ken as well as Betwa river. Okay, because this is actually mooted as an idea in order to actually distribute or redistribute the water from the area of surplus to the area of deficit. Okay, that is the agenda behind interlinking of rivers, because there are droughts as well as sometimes there are floods also. So from the areas which actually has surplus of river water that will potentially cause flooding, they are actually redistributing the water to the areas of scarcity. So this is what we are going to discuss over here. Now moving forward, let us understand what is the concept of interlinking of rivers. It is nothing but transferring water from surplus river basins to deficit areas, okay? And how this is actually happening? By constructing a network of canals. There are network of reservoirs as well as dams are constructed. What is the objective? This is for equitable water distribution, because certain areas, for example in northern India, if you see the rivers like Ganga as well as Brahmaputra, they are actually abound, okay, or they have water surplus. So from here what happens? Due to erratic monsoons or sometimes even due to high intensity of monsoon, what happens? There are scope or potential for flooding in those areas. So for those reasons, it's actually better to actually relocate or transfer some water from these areas of surplus to the deficit areas which are suffering from conditions like drought, etc. So first one, the objective is for equitable water distribution, and the second one is to address the water scarcity that India actually faces. Okay, so India has, you know, regional disparities with respect to that of water resources. So there are regional imbalances in the availability. As I told you, there is surplus of water in the rivers like Ganga as well as Brahmaputra, whereas there are deficit regions like Rajasthan, take Gujarat, some of the regions of Tamil Nadu as well as Karnataka. So this process of interlinking of rivers actually necessitates a redistribution mechanism of water from areas of surplus to areas of scarcity or drought prone areas. So this is the concept of interlinking of rivers. Now, how did this particular concept of interlinking of rivers actually originate in India? First of all, it was proposed by Sir Arthur Cotton. Who was this person? He was actually an irrigation engineer. Okay, he was an irrigation engineer, and he was the person who came up with this particular concept of interlinking of rivers back in 1858. Okay, so even before independence. Why did he actually propose this? He actually said certain areas in India is characterized by floods, whereas other areas are actually prone to droughts. So we need to redistribute water from the area of floods to droughts. So this is what was the concept proposed by Sir Arthur Cotton. And then what happened? Post independence, this particular idea resurfaced. Okay, this was in the year 1972. We have again Dr. K.L. Rao, who was another irrigation expert. He also suggested the national water grid. Okay, what is this national water grid? This was to enable the transfer of surplus water from rivers like Ganga and Brahmaputra basins to the water scarce regions. And then what happened? In 1980, the Ministry of Water Resources, right now Ministry of Water Resources is called Ministry of Jal Shakti. Okay, very important to understand, because the Ministry of HRD is now called Ministry of Education. So these terms or these kind of current affairs or news become very, very important for the examination. So the Ministry of Water Resources actually came up with National Perspective Plan. So that is what I told you, the National Perspective Plan. Under that only the foundation stone was actually laid for the Ken-Betwa interlinking of river project. And also in 2012 the Supreme Court actually gave directions to the government in order to establish the ILR projects to tackle water shortages as well as ensure the equitable distribution of water. Okay, so this is how the origination or the origin of this ILR actually came. So what are the key components of this particular National Perspective Plan is what we'll discuss. The first one, it has two main components. One is the Himalayan component. So here you know, right, it actually aims at linking the rivers in northern India, specifically rivers like Ganga and Brahmaputra, to the western regions. So linking Ganga, Brahmaputra with the western India, and this actually includes 14 link projects, and this particularly focuses on the flood control, the generation of hydropower as well as irrigation. Whereas if you see the peninsula component, that actually deals with linking the southern Indian rivers to the areas of deficit. That includes, transfer of water from Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, etc. And this also includes 16 link projects. Okay. And this focuses on improving the water availability in the drought prone areas. Okay. So now let us actually move forward. So now it also set up. So it actually had two components, and next one there was setting up of National Water Development Agency. So when was this actually set up? It was set up in the year 1982, and it was set up as an autonomous society under the Societies Registration Act of 1860. And this was, set up in order to carry out all the feasibility studies, whether it is feasible to link both the rivers or not, whether we can actually publish a report on this or not, and also implement the ILR projects. If you see this particular map, this is the interbasin water transfer links. The first one talks about Himalayan component, where it actually has Manas, Sankosh, Teesta, and then you have the Kosi, Ghagra, Ghantak, Gagra, Ghagra, Yamuna. All these are interlinking of rivers. And the ones here, if you see in red, these are the interlinking of rivers. Okay, it's like Godavari to Krishna, and then you have the Sarda river to Sabarmati. All these things are the linking which are actually proposed. Okay, and here if you see, you have the peninsula component, like you have the Mahanadi Godavari, then you have Godavari Krishna, then Godavari again to Krishna, then Krishna to Pennar, etc. Okay, so now let us actually move forward. Let's see what are the key highlights of the Ken-Betwa river linking project. Okay, so this particular Ken-Betwa river linking project was actually approved in the year 2021, and this was with the objective of transferring water from Ken river to Betwa river. If you see here, this is Ken river. It actually originates in Madhya Pradesh, then it actually flows into Uttar Pradesh and joins the Yamuna river. If you see Betwa, this also, originates in Madhya Pradesh. I told you this is Kaimur Hills, and here you have the Vindhyas, okay? And then this also flows into Uttar Pradesh and joins the Yamuna. Now they want to link and they want to send some water from this Ken river to this particular Betwa river, so that the entire water scarcity of the Bundelkhand region is actually taken care of, okay? So this is what it is. So these concepts of Bundelkhand, Chota Nagpur Plateau, Bughelkhand, all those things you need to know. So this was to transfer Ken river to the Betwa river, that is water, and in order to deal with the water scarcity of the Bundelkhand region. What are the phases of the project? It is into two phases. The phase 1 actually takes place, it actually involves the development of the Daudan Dam complex, the low and the high level tunnels, then the Ken-Betwa Link Canal, that is around 220 kilometers long, etc., as well as maintenance of all the powerhouses. The second phase actually takes care of the lower ORR dam, then the Bina complex project, as well as the Khota barrage. So because of this Ken-Betwa linking, what are the benefits? First one is it actually provides an annual irrigation of around 10.62 lakh hectares. Okay. So here it is, it actually covers around 8.11 yeah, So it actually provides annual irrigation to around 10.62 lakh hectares. Here 8 lakh hectares in MP and 2 lakhs in UP, and also supplies drinking water to around 62 lakh people, and it actually has a potential of generating 103 megawatt of hydropower as well as 27 megawatt of solar power. Here the project cost, as I already told you, it is 44,605 crore, and then it also has the geographical impact because it is going to benefit many of the districts, that is of both the states MP and UP. Many districts in this Bundelkhand region is actually going to be impacted, including the Panna, then the Tikamgarh, Jhansi as well as Lalitpur. Okay, now let us actually move forward, because in Panna, these are the districts which actually has this Panna, tiger reserve, etc. Right? Now, what are the other benefits? First one, we first saw that there is equitable water distribution, right? From the surplus to the deficit areas. Next one, it actually helps in both the flood as well as the drought mitigation. That is, Bihar and Assam rivers, the Brahmaputra and all, when it actually floods, there's a lot of flooding in Assam. So, you can actually transfer or redistribute the water from these areas. Okay, so redistributing water from surplus areas like Assam and Bihar, and also boosting irrigation. Okay, so this will enhance the irrigation potential, transform the arid regions to fertile farmlands, thereby it is going to impact or support your rural economy, and thereby what happens, your agriculture output is going to significantly increase. Okay, so these are few of the benefits of interlinking of rivers. Also, added to that, there is going to be increased hydropower generation. That is, there is going to be around 34,000 megawatt of hydropower. That is, it's going to help India reach its renewable goals, renewable energy goals, and it's going to, address the electricity shortages that India is actually facing. The second one, there is going to be inland water transport, because there are a number of canals that are constructed. So this is going to cut down your transportation cost, and it is going to create an eco-friendly freight environment. Okay. Next one is it's going to tackle the stress that we actually face with respect to tackling the groundwater depletion, because certain states are totally running out of groundwater. One best example is Tamil Nadu. Okay, in that case, what happens, if the water is actually supplied from the area of surplus, it's going to be very helpful for both the agriculture, industrial as well as the domestic use. Okay, now moving forward, let us see at the same time what are the challenges. The first one, there are political and legal challenges. Let's get through that very quickly. What can be the political challenge? First one, there can be interstate water disputes. Okay, so for example, if you take the Kaveri water dispute, that is actually between the states of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, where Kerala is also involved to a bit. What happens is that due to this kind of interstate water dispute, that is what is the quantum of water or liters of water that each state has to get, there can be roadblocks and hurdles in the implementation of this particular project. The next one, there are federal governance issue. How? Because water and its sharing actually is a state subject, very important. So here consensus to be reached between the center as well as the state becomes very difficult. So these are the political and the legal challenges. Next one, the social challenges, because construction of a dam or canals or network of waterways is going to displace thousands of people. For example, if you see the Polavaram project, okay, on the Godavari in Andhra Pradesh, this actually relocated along 1 lakh people, and most of them belonging to the scheduled tribes. So this is actually a major social concern. Next one, what are the economic challenges? First one is the high financial cost, because expenditure is massive for construction of, construction maintenance of these big projects are massive. Second one, there is a cost benefit mismatch. Despite the fact you're going to expend or you're going to spend a lot of money, you do not know the economic or the environmental viability of this particular project. Okay, so this is questioned due to unpredictable environmental and social costs. Next one comes environmental challenges. For example, there is lot of deforestation that is actually going to happen because you're going to, establish so many square kilometers of the project, river linking project, right? So here what happens, there's going to be immense deforestation, because of which there's going to be, the nature of the soil is going to be depleted, and there is also going to be biodiversity loss. For example, if you take this Ken-Betwa river linking project itself, it's going to submerge around 98 square kilometers of the Panna Tiger Reserve, which is actually distributed across the Panna as well as the Chhatarpur districts of Madhya Pradesh. So here, the Ken-Betwa project is going to submerge 98 square kilometers of the Panna Tiger Reserve, where it is going to immensely affect the tiger as well as the vulture population. Next one, aquatic ecosystem disruption. Of course, this is actually going to affect this gharial. Okay, these are the crocodiles, okay, fish eating crocodiles. So this is going to impact the aquatic biodiversity as well as the breeding grounds as well as the migration patterns of the fish. Example, if you see, diversion of the Ken river may affect the Ken gharial sanctuary. Okay, so again, it is important for you to know its location. This is located in Madhya Pradesh. Okay, let's move forward and see what are the other challenges. First, the next one is the technical and the operational challenges. Okay, there is always the hydrological uncertainty that India faces. So, being the given the fact that monsoons are very erratic in India, you do not, you cannot go about with an interlinking of the river project thinking that this particular river, that is Ken, is going to be resource rich or water rich, so that it will be easier for us to relocate or redistribute the water to Betwa. Okay, we cannot say, given the erratic nature of the monsoon as well as the climate change vagaries that are going on. So hydrological uncertainty is there. Next one, complex infrastructure requirements. Any project definitely requires, a lot of canals, tunnels, etc., right? It's going to be both, time as well as cost consuming. Next one, it's going to have international implications or ramifications, because if you see the Indus River, we actually share that with that of Pakistan, right? Similarly, when it actually comes with the rivers like Brahmaputra, etc., there again concerns are with Bangladesh. So the neighboring countries are actually alarmed, okay, thinking that if there is interlinking of river projects between two rivers within India, which also shares its border or its flow into the other countries, then it might actually affect the share of water that they might get. So here, cross-border water conflicts can cause geopolitical tensions. For example, Bangladesh here, it is scared of reduced water flow because of the Himalayan linked rivers. Next one, impact on neighborhood ecosystem. Also, the changes in the river systems are going to affect our immediate neighbors like Nepal, Bhutan, etc. Next one, geohydrological implications. So what do you mean by this? Geohydrological, there might be alterations in the channel morphology of the river itself, because now you're going to change the course of the river, right? If we are going to alter the natural flow of the river, then what are the implications it's going to have on the environment? That is what we will see. First, the altered river flow regime, we saw that it's going to disrupt the ecological flow and the balance will be affected. Next one, changes in channel morphology. We have all this, if you're a civil engineer or you would have studied geology, where the hydraulic geometry like the channel width, the depth, then the stream velocity, the load of the sediment, all this would significantly cause alteration in the watershed dynamics. Next one, we have impact on the natural processes like the erosion, that is abrasion, hydraulic action, attrition, the transportation of sediments, its deposition elsewhere, all this might be affected. Okay, so this entirely destabilizes the riverine ecosystem. So these are all the challenges that are associated with the interlinking of rivers. Now, what is the way forward? So here we've actually understood what is the concept of interlinking of rivers, how this particular concept was actually put forth by Sir Arthur Cotton, who was an irrigation expert or an engineer, and then how it actually resurfaced after the independence and how it emerged under the National Perspective Plan in 1980, and then we actually looked into what are all the pros, that is the benefits of the interlinking of rivers, and what are all the disadvantages of it. Now, having seen both sides of the coin, we need to know what are the way forward. So first one, we need to have a comprehensive impact assessment. So first one, a comprehensive impact assessment actually has to be done. This is nothing but you need to, in detail study, what are going to be the ecological repercussions, how will the society or the rehabilitation of the people be affected. Then we will see what is the strain it's going to cause on the government exchequer economically. All this we need to know. Second one, stakeholder engagement. Apart from being a unilateral decision of the center, we need to take stakeholders into consideration. Okay, they can be experts, they can be state governments, as well as neighboring countries and the local communities also, to resolve these disputes and achieve consensus based solutions. Next one, complementary water management practices. So here we need to combine this particular interlinking of rivers with others also, like with other projects or the other important initiatives, like you can see the watershed management, the rainwater harvesting, the efficient irrigation system, etc. And the final one, we need to have international cooperation. We need to take into consensus our neighboring countries also, and we need to ensure that it's a win-win situation for both the sides, okay, so that the benefits are shared and there is minimization of conflicts, that is of the countries which are going to share this particular river water. So this is the concept of interlinking of rivers. Now, let us quickly get into the other, the next topic, that is the lapses in the disaster management bill. Okay. So here there are certain things you need to understand. It is very quick. Let's, get through this very quickly. So first of all, there is something called as the Disaster Management Act. Okay, so this actually came into existence in 2005 in order to ensure there is proper response mechanism through an institutional framework for preservation and necessary strategies that are developed in in times of, or to deal with in times of disasters. Okay, any kind of disaster, whether it is tsunami or whether it is landslide, etc. So this is what it is. Now, what happened in 2024? The government actually felt that this particular Disaster Management Act had certain gaps. Okay, for example, there was no clear-cut framework of how disaster management can actually be taken care of when it comes to the urban areas as well as the cities. Okay, so for example, next, there was no establishment of the state disaster management authority. So all these things, or response forces, so that we'll actually see there were certain gaps. So this 2024 disaster management bill came into existence, and it actually took care of certain gaps that this Disaster Management Act of 2005 had. However, this particular article, the author actually says that there are still gaps in the 2024 bills, and what are those lapses is what we'll be discussing in this article. So here we'll be seeing what is Disaster Management Act, Disaster Management Amendment Bill, which becomes important for both the prelims as well as the mains examination under Disaster Management GS Paper 3, and for prelims, current events of national and international importance. Now moving forward, if you see, there has actually been a question that is recent years initiated in disaster management by Government of India. So this entire disaster management as a topic becomes very, very important. Now let's quickly get into the topic. So the Disaster Management Bill 2024, this actually tried to fill the gaps of the DM Act 2025, but in itself it actually faces a lot of concerns. What are the concerns? This actually is not increasing the scope of participatory governance. It is actually not taking into consideration the accountability and the efficiency, is what the author is actually saying. Okay, so now first quickly understand what is DM Act. So this was enacted in order to have effective disaster management through institutional mechanism, and through this institutional mechanisms you have strategies for prevention, the mitigation as well as the response to any kind of disasters. Okay, then there is an institutional framework. You have the National Disaster Management Authority, which is headed by the Prime Minister. Then you have the State Disaster Management Authority, that is headed by the Chief Ministers. Then you have the district disaster management authority, which is headed by the collectors or the district magistrates or the deputy commissioners. And then you have the National Institute of Disaster Management that actually focuses on capacity building. And then you have the National Disaster Response Force that actually focuses on planning as well as taking care of the financial objectives. So under the DM Act, what are the mechanisms? There are various plans, there are funds, and the local authorities' role. So it has a plan which says that all the ministries and the departments must have plans that align with the national plan. Next one, the funds. This actually establishes the National Disaster Management Fund, and also it actually takes into consideration, or it actually acknowledges the role that is actually played by the local communities. Okay, that is actually envisaged in the constitution as per 73rd as well as 74th constitutional amendments. Okay, so this is also there. Next one, it provides a legal institutional framework, which we'll actually see in the next slide. This is the legal institutional framework. So excuse me. So first you have the central government. Under that you have the Ministry of Home Affairs, which is the nodal ministry. Under that you actually have the National Disaster Management Authority. Then you have the National Institute of Disaster Management, and you have the National Disaster Response Force. Okay. Then here you have the National Executive Committee, and here it is actually having a chairperson. Next one, this is actually the state government. Okay. Here you have the SDMA, State Disaster Management Authority, and then State Executive Committee Chair. Then you have the district administration, under which you have the panchayat and the municipalities. Then you have the district disaster management authority, etc. So this is actually the institutional framework that has been established under the Disaster Management Act of 2005. What were the gaps in this particular act? First one, it actually lagged giving a detailed provision for urban specific disasters. Okay, so first one, there was less of coordination and management. Next one, the response capacity. So you have, if you see, the NDRF, the National Disaster Response Force, was actually established, but SDRF, which was crucial for localized disaster, was not there. Also, statutory recognition were not given for critical committees. What were these committees? First one is a National Crisis Management Committee. Next one is the High Level Committee. So these were the gaps that were there in the DMA Act. Now, the bill that actually came up with these provisions. First, it actually established the Urban Disaster Management Authority, which actually was set up, or according to the Bill 2024, the Urban Disaster Management Authority can be set up by the state governments, and it is chaired by the municipal commissioners, and the function is to prepare and implement the disaster management plan for the urban areas. Then it also called for the establishment of the State Disaster Response Force. That is, again, it can actually be set up by the state governments, and here the state governments will define the functions. Next one, the statutory status for the National Crisis Management Committee and the High Level Committee had been given, and also the appointment to the NDMA authority. This was actually empowered to specify the number and category of its officers and employees. So what were all the gaps of the DM Act? This bill actually addressed the same. Okay, so this is what. Next one, if you see the analysis of the amendment made, the bill 2024, it actually catered to the urban focus, because the Urban Disaster Management Authority, it gave place to be established by the state government. Next one, there was enhanced response capacity, because SDRFs were also established. Okay, that provides states with specialized forces. Next one, statutory recognition was also given, because both the committees, that is Crisis Management Committee and High Level Committee, were given the statutory status. And finally, there were regulatory clarity that was actually in the amendment. However, this article actually says that there are certain lapses in this particular bill of 2024. What are the lapses? First one, lack of community involvement. Okay, how do we say that? Because this particular bill actually uses top down terms. Okay, usually the approach has to be bottom up, right? So this actually uses the top down terms like monitor and guideline. Okay, instead of using inclusive terms like supervision and direction. and also ignores the global frameworks like Hugo framework, Sendai framework. All this actually focuses on the communities as first responders. Next one, it overlooks the substantive roles. Here, the substantive roles that have been played by the local communities, the panchayats, the NGOs were not taken into consideration as per the author. Next one, there are silence on the intersectional vulnerabilities. That is, what is the vulnerability of certain sections with respect to gender, the LGBTQ, the vulnerable sections, disability, caste, etc. is not taken into consideration. Also, there are weak accountability mechanisms because there are no proper provisions for evaluation of performance of the district authorities. Okay, this is also told here. Moving on, there are removal of mandatory provisions. These sections are not important, but you need to know certain sections which actually support widows, orphans, the homeless, certain sections which actually focused on integrated development planning. This has also been dropped, and certain sections that actually focus on preparedness of the state executive committees have also been deleted. Next one, speciesism. What is the impact of disaster management on the animals? That is actually been not taken into acknowledgement. Okay, it fails to acknowledge. And also the disaster, that is district disaster management authorities, they were given very little responsibility in implementing animal birth control rules 2023. Now moving forward, what are the other lapses? Is there is unclear need for urban disaster management authority. Here it actually established an urban disaster management authority, but what are its functions is not clearly mentioned. Okay, because if you see, even the municipal corporations actually have the same kind of clarity, same kind of roles, like handling urban land, buildings and taxation. Then there is neglect of regional and environmental factors, where it actually focuses on, that is, it overlooks the encroachment along the water bodies, the riverine beds, etc. And this actually looks like it is involuntarily encouraging the process of urban flooding. Okay, so this is what it is. Now moving forward, let us go to the third article. Center yet to formally scrap the FMR with Myanmar. This is very important, where we'll be discussing about the free movement regime, and India-Myanmar border becomes again very important for prelims, current events of national and international importance, and for mains GS paper 2, international relations, India and its neighborhood relations. Okay, so moving forward, there has been a PYQ with respect to the movement of insurgents specifically in the northeastern region, and also what are the various challenges of emanating from India-Myanmar border. So that is why this particular topic becomes very important. Okay, so here actually, the Union Cabinet had announced the scrapping of this FMR policy, but now what they say is that it is not, let's not completely scrap it, but then let us actually introduce stringent protocols in order to regulate the movement of people or the inhabitants or residents within few kilometers of the international border. So this is what it is. Let us see what this particular FMR actually means. So, free movement regime is a bilateral arrangement between India and Myanmar in order to facilitate easier cross-border movement of people living along the Indo-Myanmar border. So, this was actually, it came into existence as a part of India's Act East policy, that is in order to enhance the connectivity, the trade, the cultural ties with Southeast Asia, particularly Myanmar. So, this came in 2018. So, here the individuals who actually reside in the border actually have to have a 1-year border pass. Okay, so this particular pass is valid for 1 year, and if you have that pass, you can reside in the country for about 2 weeks, that is 14 days. So this is the free movement regime. So if you actually see here, this is India and this is the border, that is 1643 kilometer border we actually share with Myanmar. And what are the bordering states? It actually has Arunachal Pradesh, remember from here, it has Nagaland, Manipur as well as Mizoram. So here Meghalaya won't be there, very important. Okay, so we have an unfenced border of 106.43 kilometer long, border, and where both the sides actually share the familial ties, the ethnic ties, as well as the trade ties. Okay, and here if you see, Arunachal Pradesh has the longest border, very important fact for prelims, followed by followed by you have Mizoram, and then you have Manipur, and then you have Nagaland, and this actually joins, or runs from the tri-point. Okay, so here it is India, here it is Myanmar and China. Again, if you see, this is India, this is Bangladesh and Myanmar. So it runs from tri-point with China in the north and tri-point with Bangladesh in the south. And which is the guarding force over here is that it is Assam Rifles. So this is the security force that is responsible for maintaining the security of the border between India and Myanmar. Whereas other things like BSF, these security central armed forces become very important for your examination. For BSF, for example, they are actually used for protection in the India-Pakistan as well as India-Bangladesh region. Okay, now let's move forward. So if you actually see, this particular unfenced border has become extremely porous in nature, and there have also been increased threats as well as ethnic violence in this particular region. Okay, so that is why there was a Government India notification in 1968 in order to limit this particular free movement of people. So according to that notification, what happened? They said that people can actually inhabit around 40 kilometers from the border, that is on either side of the border. If this is the border, 40 kilometers people can actually reside on either side. But then what happened? This was actually revised in 2004, and this 40 was brought down to 16 kilometers. Okay, so if you see, when was the last revision that was made on this FMR regime? It was in 2016. Okay, so now let us actually move forward. So scrapping was suggested. Why? Because of the ethnic unrest that was taking place in the northeastern region. Next one, they wanted to maintain the demographic structure of the northeastern states, because of the porous nature, there were increasing immigrants. Okay, and also surge in narcotics production. So what happened? However, the government called for scrapping off. It was not scrapped off. Now stringent protocols have actually come. That is that 16 kilometers has further been reduced to 10 kilometers, and that too you can actually do only when you have urgent health crisis or in terms of educational needs. Okay, or for livelihood purposes you can do, is what the government has actually said. And then the Assam Rifles will regulate these 43 designated entry as well as the exit points. And for re-entry into India, what happens? Individuals must report at these points and they have to fill a form, and then they will have security as well as health checkup, okay, for drugs and then for arms, ammunitions, etc. So this is what this particular article is saying. However, in order to maintain that, in order to maintain this FMR region with a very stringent protocol, there are certain concerns. That is, there is extensive requirement of infrastructure development, okay, either in terms of human resources and other resources in the country. So infrastructure development is required, so that is not sufficient with India. And the second one is that political and civil society groups, they have actually raised concerns about the potential impact it is going to have on the cultural and the ethnic or the familial ties that the people between both the sides actually share. Okay, so this is a very simple concept of FMR. The next one is a very simple concept. This is however not extremely important for the exam, but you need to know that this particular Australia online safety bill. Just a minute. So here we need to know that this Australia's safety amendment bill, what is it all about and why is it in the news, is very important. Okay, because you can actually quote this as one of the case studies or examples when you're writing an answer of society, okay, on society. So Australia's online safety amendment and age restricted social media platforms, these are these platforms which regulate what is the kind of post you make. Okay, like for example, it can be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. And this is important for both your prelims as well as the mains examination under social empowerment. So here if you see, Australia's House of Representatives, they passed the Online Safety Amendment Bill 2024. This actually aims to safeguard the children who are below 16 years of age who can be impacted by these particular or potential online harms. Okay. Let's quickly go through this. This came into existence. First one, obviously to enhance the online safety of the children. Then to address any kind of harmful behavior or the content on digital platform. Here there is the regulatory body, that is the e-safety commissioner, who is actually taking care of this. So independent regulatory body is established, and platforms must actually remove any kind of content once a report is actually submitted within 24 hours of time. Next one is removal of non-consensual intimate images and abusive online content should be done under this particular act. Also, this particular amendment that was brought to this particular act actually, spoke about age restricted social media platforms. These are platforms that require the consent of your particular age. Okay, so platforms that require specific age restrictions for user accounts, for you to hold particular accounts on example, for you to have an account on TikTok, you must be 16 years old. So like for example, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Reddit, etc. So these are all the provisions it had actually told. So the bill actually brought in number of provisions. First one, it brought provision that is part 4A into Australia's Online Safety Act that mandated the establishment of this particular age restricted social media platforms. We saw this, right? So that actually requires your age in order to be registered as an account user. Next one, non-compliance with this will result with fine up to $49.5 million, and all the account holders would need to compulsorily verify their age. Okay, so this is actually a very, very small article which I thought it might become important quote as a case study. Okay, with respect to online gaming, because of late lot of society questions either in GS paper 1 or in your essay paper this actually appears, right? Now, the last topic for today is how the 2004 Indian Ocean quake transformed the tsunami signs. So here it is important for us to understand the concepts of tsunami and how this particular tsunami of 2004 helped in transforming the tsunami signs of India. So this becomes very important for prelims as well as mains under disaster as well as disaster management, GS paper 3. Now moving forward, if you see the 2004 tsunami made people realize that mangroves are actually important. So this has been a PYQ for the prelims examination in 2011. So here tsunami becomes an important topic. So if you see why this particular article is in news, because December 26 today marks the 20th anniversary of the Indian Ocean tsunami that took place in 2004. So now let us understand what is the meaning of tsunami. This particular term actually originates from the Japanese word, that is tsu, which means harbor, and nami actually means waves. These are nothing but series of powerful waves that are caused in a water body, maybe because of displacement of large volume of water due to subduction of the tectonic plate, or it can be due to sudden release of the magma, and this actually happens in the ocean or a large lake. Okay, so now let us quickly see what are the characteristics of a tsunami. If you see, tsunami actually is coming from here because this is during the earthquake. So what happens? The tremor is actually felt and the tsunami starts during the earthquake and the giant waves travel across the sea. Okay, and then what happens? It actually hits the coast as tsunami. Do you understand? So it is characterized by long waves. Okay, so they have extremely big wavelengths which actually extends to hundreds of kilometers. What do you mean by wavelength? It is a distance between the crest of two waves. So this is actually going to be 500 kilometers. Okay, so it is characterized by long waves, and it is also characterized by high speeds which range up to 890 to 900 km per hour in deep water, and this actually crosses the entire ocean in hours. Okay, so this is the picture of tsunami if you see. Next one, if you see, yeah. So how does that actually cause? It is because of the earthquake I told, no? And also I told a word called subduction of the tectonic plates. See, this is actually your one of the tectonic plates. This is one plate, and this is another ocean plate, right? So when whichever plate is actually heavier, it subducts under the lighter plate, and when the subduction happens due to the convergent boundaries, there is what happens, there is a tremor in the form of earthquake. So that is when this triggers the tsunami. Okay, now moving forward, again, apart from the long wavelengths as well as the speed, it also has multiple waves, because it is not a single wave, it is a series of waves, with the largest wave often arriving later. It also has the shoaling effect, because when it when it approaches the shallow coast, what happens, the speed reduces, but it actually increases the height dramatically, causing massive flooding. Okay, and next one, the energy conservation. The expenditure of energy from the tsunami is very, very less. So what happens, they actually remain destructive for a longer period of time, for a longer distance. So these are the characteristics of tsunami. What are the causes? I told you, subduction zone, or the subduction zone earthquakes here, because one plate actually subducts into or under the other plate. Next one, there are underground volcanic eruptions, that is the magma comes and it displaces a huge volume of water. Next one, sudden landslides can also, either undersea or the coastal landslides can also be the reasons. And then asteroid impacts, these are rare, but when actually occurs, these are extremely catastrophic. That is when asteroids from the space come and strike the ocean, it can cause massive waves again. Okay, so these are few of the causes of the tsunami. So what happened in having understood, because none of us knew much about this concept of tsunami. Okay, either we would have read it in school and just brushed past it, until and unless this 2004 catastrophic tsunami, which actually triggered a 9.1 magnitude earthquake off the Sumatran coast. Okay, so here let us see what happened beneath 30 kilometers of the Sunda Trench. You need to know all these trenches and the location of these countries. Okay, here what happened was that there was a 9.1 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Sumatra, and this actually caused a rupture, okay, of the fault for around 1300 kilometers, okay, of the boundary. And there were around 17 countries, including India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Thailand, all these countries were affected. And the coastal destruction with respect to India, if you see, it was actually Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and specifically certain areas actually had 90% of the population been wiped out, and the death toll was in lakhs. Okay, around 2,27,000 lives were there, and it has been recorded as one of the deadliest tsunamis in history, and it has actually resulted in the displacement of around 1.7 million people. These people were actually forced to be relocated. So after the tsunami, how well was the disaster management, resilience, or the mitigation strategy that India had actually adopted? So first one, there was establishment of tsunami early warning system. For example, Indian Tsunami Early Warning Center. This was established in 2007 in Hyderabad. Okay, so this is actually equipped with monitoring, that is seismic monitoring stations, the bottom pressure recorders, and tidal gauges, that is to measure the tide, height, and the distance to which it travels. And also it issues tsunami alerts within 10 minutes of detecting a tsunami triggered earthquake. Next one, the global integration, that is India specifically through this ITEWC, that is the early warning center, we actually work with the international network, enhancing preparedness across this entire Indian Ocean region. Okay, now moving forward, there were new research and discoveries, that is we were able to put in a lot of effort to study the type of sediment deposits, what is the rate of mangrove subsidence, okay, specifically in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and this further resulted in the evidence of earlier tsunamis 1,000 years back. Also, there were lot of excavations that have been done in Mamalapuram, that is Mahabalipuram in Tamil Nadu. This actually unearthed a lot of proofs, okay, of tsunamis that had occurred in the past also before 2004. And also there were seismic studies, that is the seismic studies had identified something called as slow slips. What are these slow slips? Nothing but gradual movement of the faults, okay. So this one that may act as precursors to major earthquakes. And improved understanding of seismic activity, this actually helps us to predict the potential disasters, okay. So this is what it is. And also there have been technological progress, because now we use the GPS systems for the land deformation, and enhanced tsunami modeling is actually there. And also we have improved our nuclear infrastructure, because imagine, for example, in Fukushima, Japan, 2011, because of a tsunami, what happened? The earthquake had actually triggered tsunami, and that had hit and caused catastrophic impact in this Fukushima, Japan, okay, because of which the casualties were numerous, okay. This was a nuclear power plant in Japan. So however, luckily in 2004, this particular Kalpakkam nuclear power plant in Tamil Nadu, this was actually not affected, okay, because the cooling systems were there, and also the automatic shutdown mechanisms actually worked properly. So because of that, the nuclear infrastructure and the safety has been enhanced in India. So this was one of the lessons that we had actually learned from the Fukushima disaster, in order to have the safety protocols in place, okay. So this is the next one. Now let us quickly solve the mains practice question. So examine the environmental and ecological challenges posed by the interlinking of river project in India. So of course, we'll actually start this answer with the introduction, where the interlinking of the river projects aim to address water scarcity, which poses significant environment and ecological challenge. So we are just talking about what is interlinking of rivers over here. And in the body, we'll discuss about what is the kind of habitat destruction, what is the disruption in the aquatic ecosystem, the loss of biodiversity, water quality issue, the channel morphology of the river beds actually changing, etc. And finally, in the conclusion, we will actually say that this project requires careful and a comprehensive impact assessment, as well as mitigation strategies by involving all the stakeholders, okay, so that we actually prevent the ecology or the ecosystem being affected by this particular risk of the project, okay. So now moving ahead, let us actually solve the MCQs that were taken up by Yogesh sir the previous class. So consider the following statements regarding the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT. So this was created in 1947 through a multilateral treaty signed by 23 countries that included India after World War II. Yes, this is correct. So GATT was a formal organization that regulated global trade until it was replaced by WTO. No, it was said to be replaced by ITO, International Trade Organization. Next one. The primary objective of GATT was to promote international trade by reducing tariffs and other barriers. This is also correct. Since statement 1 and 3 are correct, here the answer will be option B. Now moving forward to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding the Indian economy in 2025. Here, household financial savings as a percentage of GDP has declined in recent years. Yes, these trends become very, very important. So this has raised concerns about the long-term financial stability. Yes, this is correct. Next one. India's services trade exports have surpassed goods exports. Yes, correct. Okay, this has been driven by structural advantages like remote work, telecom bandwidth expansion. Yes, this is also correct. So since both the statements are correct, here your answer will be option C. Now moving on to the next question. What is the position of right to education in India? So this particular article was in the news. Why? Because of the recent scrapping of the no detention policy of students from class 5 to 8, right? So here you need to know what is the status of right to education in India, because similarly right to property in India, what was its status was already asked in one of your PYQs. So here if you see, right to education in India, is it a legal right available to the citizens only? No, it is not a legal right, because this Right to Education Act was introduced, and then it had Article 21A, which was included as a fundamental right, right? So it is a fundamental right available to the citizens only. So here again, your answer will be option C. Now moving forward, there are few questions for today. One with respect to India-Myanmar border, that is which of the states of India share a border with Myanmar, and the BSF is responsible for it. Both these points we had actually discussed. So here your work is actually to comment your answers in the comment section below, and also to take up these MCQs on our website, the link of which is provided in the comment section, so that you will be marked as right or wrong depending on today's discussion and your performance, for which the detailed explanation is provided both on the website, and we also have provided you with our DNA notes, that is both there on the website and the Telegram channel. So please do solve this question, and this analysis will be taken up tomorrow. So moving on, the next question is with respect to the causes of tsunami. Which of the following is correct? And next one is regarding the disaster management amendment bill. Which of the following are correct over here? So it talks about NDMA as well as the Urban Disaster Management Authority and so on. So with this, we've actually come to the end of our daily news analysis discussion today. So I hope you actually enjoyed the session. So for any further updates and for similar classes as well as live sessions and interactive sessions, please do like, share and subscribe to Narayana IAS Academy YouTube channel. Thank you. We'll catch up soon.